Smart trainers are cheaper and more accessible than ever, but here in late 2025, the sweet spot for price, features and performance sits around the £500 or $600 mark. And with that in mind, I have put 3 of the key models around this price through my rigorous test protocol to find out which ones are worth your hard-earned cash. As always, if you want to read my in-depth reviews for every trainer mentioned in this video, then there are links in the description below, or you can just head over to BikeRadar.com to check them out after you've watched this video. Now though, let's introduce our 3 contenders. First up, we've got the JetBlack Victory. Priced at just under £400 or dollars, or around 450 euros, it absolutely smoked the competition when it launched in 2024 with the best price to performance ratio of any smart trainer that I had ever tested. Now perhaps in response to JetBlack, Wahoo finally launched the Kicker Core 2 in September of this year, the long-awaited successor to its influential mid-range direct drive smart trainer. Given it's around 25% more expensive than the Victory though, does it do enough to steal back its crown? Stay tuned to find out. Lastly, we've got the new Elite Revo. An update to the highly rated but aging Sweeto, the Revo borrows design cues from Elite's flagship Justo smart trainer, but keeps the price competitive at just under £500 or 520 euros. Now all 3 trainers have roughly comparable specs on paper, with each one claiming to provide enough performance to satisfy 99% of riders. Now as you'd expect in this day and age, they all use direct drive rather than wheel-on designs, which see you remove the rear wheel from your bike and mount it directly to the trainer at the dropouts. Both the JetBlack Victory and the Wahoo Kicker Core 2 have maximum power ceilings of 1,800 watts and can simulate gradients of up to 16%. The Elite Revo offers a little more on both fronts, with a maximum power ceiling of 2,100 watts and simulated gradients of up to 18%. Now all 3 offer Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity, although the Revo drops ANT+ connectivity. Where we see bigger differences on paper are with flywheel weight, overall weight, and how easy they are to stow away after use. The Revo is the lightest of the 3 at just 10 kilos, and perhaps unsurprisingly also has the lightest flywheel at just 3.5 kilos. It also folds up to be the most compact of the 3 trainers, making it by far the easiest to store away between rides if you don't have a dedicated space to leave your bike set up and ready to ride. The JetBlack Victory sits in the middle with a 12.9 kilos overall weight and a 4.7 kilogram flywheel, while the Wahoo Kicker Core 2 is the heaviest on both fronts with an 18 kilo overall weight and a 5.4 kilo flywheel. It's also worth noting that while the Revo and the Victory both have handles, the Kicker Core 2 doesn't, so it is noticeably more awkward to move it around, as there's just not really an ideal way to hold onto it. With all of these specs though, knowing which features do and don't matter is crucial to distinguishing between the strengths and weaknesses of these trainers. But before we get on to performance, let's very quickly touch on setup. Now it's fair to say that all 3 trainers will be easy to set up if you're an experienced rider, but for those that aren't, the Kicker Core 2 does stand out for its colour-coded legs and axle adapters guide. The Victory also includes colour-coded legs, but you have to get by without a guide for the axle adapters, and the Revo doesn't include either. Again, I will stress that none of the 3 were difficult for me to set up, especially if you get one with a Zwift cog, as that means you don't even need to worry about bike compatibility for the most part. But beginners will likely find the Kicker Core 2 the most approachable. And with all of that out of the way, let's talk about what they're like in use. We'll start with the connectivity options, as while there's little difference on paper, there are a few quirks with one of the trainers that complicates things in real life. Now, as noted earlier, these 3 trainers all offer Wi-Fi connectivity, which is great as it means they can automatically keep their firmware up to date and you get a potentially stronger and more stable connection to whatever indoor cycling app that you're using. Unfortunately though, the Elite Revo can only use virtual shifting over Bluetooth, so if you do get one with a Zwift cog and click controllers, then you won't be able to use a Wi-Fi connection for riding. Annoyingly, this means missing out on the faster data transfer speeds, often referred to as race mode, that you can get over Wi-Fi with the Revo. Now in contrast, both the Victory and the Kicker Core 2 support virtual shifting and race mode over both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Of course, if you are using a standard bike cassette rather than the Zwift cog, then this won't be an issue, but it is worth noting if the cog is a key feature for you. In terms of ride feel, there is a clear hierarchy for me, with the Kicker Core 2 being the clear winner. it's fair to say that the Victory doesn't lag far behind, and you might not even notice a difference if you were blindfolded, but there is a clear step down with the Elite Revo. While there is more to a trainer's ride feel than flywheel weight alone, it is telling that the fluidity through the pedals does seem directly linked to it. The Revo, for example, with its lighter 3.5 kilogram flywheel, simply feels choppier and less realistic through the pedals than the other two trainers. It is fair to say though that erg mode performance is typically better on higher end smart trainers such as the Wahoo Kickr V6 or Tacx Neo 3M, so if you're really into structured workouts then it might be worth saving up for a more expensive model. In any case, I think that most riders would be happy with the ride feel on offer with all three trainers, although when push comes to shove, the Victory and the Kickr Core 2 are a step above the Revo. Given most indoor cycling apps rely on power data to translate your efforts into actions on screen, having a trainer that provides an accurate representation of your power output is absolutely crucial. Now on paper, all three should be similar thanks to their ±2 or 2.5% error bands, but we actually see some important differences between the three models here too. For a start, both the Kickr Core 2 and the JetBlack Victory feature automatic calibration functions that help keep the data in check as you ride. Whereas in contrast, you'll need to do manual spin down calibrations with the Elite Revo, and only after 10 minutes of riding to give everything a chance to come up to the right temperature. As with the ride feel, the Kickr Core 2 comes out on top here, producing impressively accurate power and cadence data throughout my testing. Notably, it even matched my on-bike power meters a little more closely than the outgoing Kickr Core, which tended to read just a few watts higher when you'd normally expect the opposite given it's further downstream and subject to drivetrain losses. Wahoo hasn't said it's made any specific changes to the Kickr Core 2's hardware to achieve this improvement, but it did note that fellow YouTuber Shane Miller, also known as GP Llama, said in his review that Wahoo is now factoring in drivetrain losses as part of its calibrations, so that likely explains it. The JetBlack Victory was also very solid overall, matching my power meters well, and as noted in my in-depth review on BikeRadar.com, I saw some instances where the Victory would track a little bit low at the beginning of rides, but this always sorted itself out after about 10 minutes of riding. Unfortunately, I found that the Elite Revo didn't live up to my expectations in this area. It generally tracked well with my power meters at lower efforts, but it also tended to underreport quite significantly during sprints, often missing the peak snaps of power. I also saw some drift that didn't stabilise during the rides, starting low for example, but then ending up a little too high towards the end of a ride. As with the ride feel, it wasn't a million miles off, and a few years ago this would have been close enough to say that it's fine for a budget trainer. Nowadays though, it's just not quite good enough given the available competition. If you've got a power meter on your bike, then you can link that to the Revo and have it transmit that data in place of its own, which can effectively be a workaround for this issue, but obviously not everyone will have a power meter, and to be frank, that just feels like papering over cracks that shouldn't exist on a smart trainer in late 2025. Okay. So if you've made it this far, then a big thanks for watching, and let's give you that all-important answer as to which is the best smart trainer for under £500 or $600. Now in terms of pure performance, I think the Wahoo Kickr Core edges it. It has the best ride feel, all the right features, and produced the most accurate and consistent data of the three trainers. The only thing it really lacks is a handle. So that's the one to get, right? Well, possibly, but it is also really hard to ignore just how good the JetBlack Victory is for £100 or $150 less. The performance is so close to the Kickr Core 2 in every area that it really is quite hard to justify spending that extra money. As was the case when I reviewed the Victory back in 2024 though, the major problem with that trainer is the fact that it lacks the same distribution network that Wahoo has, and it's therefore slightly trickier to get hold of one. As you've probably guessed, it's tougher for me to recommend the Elite Revo. It's not that it's a bad smart trainer, it's more that the competition has taken tangible steps forward while the Revo feels like it stood relatively still. Even if you've got a great power meter to get around the accuracy issues, the relatively poor ride feel and the fact that you can only use virtual shifting over Bluetooth and not Wi-Fi would be more than enough to sway me towards one of the other two trainers that we've discussed here today. But what do you think? What is the best smart trainer for less than £500 or $600? Is it one of these three, or is there something else that I've overlooked? As always, let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you liked this video, why not watch this one about the best smart trainers at every budget?